Johnny.
Every Wednesday morning, the animals are waiting for Janice Serafian. They know the volunteer at the West Place Animal Sanctuary in Tiverton will arrive bearing treats. Usually it's blueberries, but today it is crackers. And it becomes a controlled chaos as she tries to make sure everyone gets a piece of the action. One of the first things you notice on a visit to West Place is that every single one of the dozens of farm animals, birds, and wildlife has a name. And there's a lot to keep track of. Johnny is one of 3 horses, Bobbert one of 8 alpacas. Stumpy is a goose who can't fly, and Sadie, one of 2 goats and several sheep. Then there is Peepers, a turkey who came here 8 years ago with broken toes, a broken leg, and broken wing. Presiding over it all, Chester, a Narragansett heritage turkey found on the side of the road in South County, who is the unofficial mayor of this 8-acre refuge for animals that have been abused, neglected, orphaned, or injured. They are here to live out their lives, however long they may be.
In order to make sure that we get everybody in and we get the right head count, we name them.
Wendy Taylor founded the nonprofit in 2007, eventually trading her job as the managing partner of a law firm in Providence for days on the farm that leave her simultaneously exhausted and exhilarated. Taylor's motivation? A fire in 2003 that claimed most of her just renovated historic home in the southern end of Tiverton, along with 2 dogs, 6 cats, and a goat. She recalled her thinking at the time.
In order to sort of balance the scales or make things right, maybe I could donate to an animal organization. And I thought about it. That was a really good suggestion, and I probably should have done that because I could just have written a check and moved on and gotten on with it. But I was too hands-on of a person for something like that, and I thought, well, maybe I can start my own nonprofit and just help a little bit more.
Taylor didn't envision at the time what West Place has become today. A go-to place for wildlife rehabilitation and a sanctuary for farm animals, with dozens of volunteers who descend here every week, committed to keeping the operation running smoothly.
It is my favorite day of the week.
Dawn Ferrari began volunteering several months ago for a 2-hour shift every Wednesday morning.
It gives me a sense of purpose. It makes me feel like I'm doing something good, and I care so much about animals, and I just strongly agree with what Wendy's doing here, and it just makes me feel really, really good and like proud to be part of this.
All the week I'm in a suit, and on Wednesdays I'm in this, and this is probably the hardest work I do all week.
John Butler has been a volunteer here for the past year, taking 1 day off from a sales job in Boston that he commutes to from Providence the rest of the week.
They touch you, they move you, they give you a sense of I don't know, bigger than life. You know, there's, I guess because I go into the city every day and I'm so, you know, doing the same thing, and I'm on the commute, and when I come here, I realize there's so much more to life. Like these little things make a big difference. Just walking in every morning and seeing all those little faces staring at you, ready to eat, and they're excited to see you. Everyone has a name because everyone here is somebody, and we want to make sure that they know that, and this is their happy place for the rest of their lives.
Serafian makes the drive from Cranston early every Wednesday morning.
I've looked into volunteering for Roger Williams and Mystic Aquarium, but it just wasn't the same. This here, you don't get the one-on-one there that you do here. You know, these animals are all over you, you know, and it's their home. So, you know, that's the best part. It's hard not to just spend time playing, and you know, then you realize I got work to do.
West Place began modestly more than a decade ago, but grew as the word got out about the work Taylor was doing.
It all came by necessity. Obviously, if we do waterfowl rehab, we knew we needed a water source for the birds, so the pond started. And then a tiny little barn that existed, which was almost falling down, we knew wasn't big enough to do what we wanted to do. So that came tumbling down, and the newer, bigger, better barn went up in its place. And then 2 pastures turned into 8 pastures, which is now part of a rotational grazing system.
In the early years, she was still practicing law, but found the pull of the farm increasingly strong.
I came home from work one night and my husband said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "You can't do this anymore." And I said, "What is this?" And he said, "You're working 2 full-time jobs. You're half an hour away for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. And then when you're here, you're trying to scramble and make up for this. You've got to stop working 2 jobs."
He told her to pick one, and Taylor chose West Place, eventually closing her practice.
Now I'm surrounded by 50 volunteers that all get it, and they think what we do is amazing. So I'm not a fish out of water anymore. I'm not the oddball. I'm in my element now. I'm surrounded by people who appreciate the fact that West Place exists.
Yeah, yes, that's good. That's good. Go ahead, close your mouth.
Along the way, Taylor was certified by the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management to be a wildlife rehabilitator. After taking classes and tests, working as an apprentice, getting a permit, then eventually a license. Last week, Taylor personally oversaw the every 15-minute feedings of a baby starling that someone found and brought to the sanctuary.
You learn by doing. You learn by observing, by having an emergency get thrown at you, and that animal has life and death on the line, and you're the person that needs to figure out how to fix it.
We were there the day Stumpy the goose and Mrs. Stumpy, as she is known, welcomed their 5 baby goslings into the world. Stumpy has angel wing, which prevents him from flying. And while this is Stumpy's permanent home, West Place will rehabilitate about 200 birds, geese, and ducks this year alone, releasing them into the wild to make room for others coming in.
We have ducks, turkeys, both wild and domestic. We have geese, swans, chickens, pheasant, partridge, peacocks, horses, a pony, sheep, goats, alpaca.
Which means there is a tremendous amount of work to do, from feeding and cleaning to keeping up on the grounds. Taylor said she could not do it all without the core of volunteers that comes to the farm for 14 2-hour shifts every week.
In order for me to do that part of what it takes to make a nonprofit run, I needed people doing the everyday hands-on care and the feeding, the cleaning, the animal enrichment, and then just generally giving them love. You know, something they hadn't gotten, many of them hadn't gotten in their former lives.
Part of it is like interacting with these animals, like this is their last home and like their enjoyable place, and so to bond with them. And they're all, like, obviously with the exception of the rooster today and Bobbert sometimes, like they're the sweetest animals. Like the sheeps and the goats are just so sweet and just awesome animals.
All of the volunteers say it was what Taylor has created here and how it evolved that convinced them to come on board.
Her story is what inspired me to come here. It's really what moved me. I looked at other sanctuaries, I looked at zoos, I looked at all kinds of things, but at the end of the day, after reading her story, I thought this is where I should be, and it felt genuine.
She's out here with us. She's inside writing the grants. She's a million places at once and still has a smile on her face.
Elena Elzabach began volunteering here last summer and is back this year to supervise a group of interns, part of West Place's educational program.
Her passion for this place is like tangible. You get here and you just see her excitement, you see her care. And I think it helps that all the volunteers and the interns want to like live up to her expectations and her dreams for this farm.
Kids can get their education about many things in the summer from a lot of places. They can go to museums, they can go to sailing school, but there aren't too many places that try to talk about and treat about the ethical treatment of farm animals, especially ones that have come from abuse cases.
Taylor would like to expand and get a second property, but many of her future plans are contingent on securing the funding to do it, a constant challenge in running any nonprofit organization.
I have to be honest, initially I came here, like I said, as to do something unselfish. And I thought I was going to come here and change their lives, but really, at the end of the day, these animals changed my life. I will never be the same person again.
In Tiverton, Jim Hummel for the Rhode Island Spotlight.